Hi, the title of this presentation is Supercharge Matomo for Extended Analytics and Automated Reporting. This is the structure of this talk. I will introduce myself and I'll introduce a way to get going with the web analytics in a straightforward way, how to integrate Matomo and treat it as a black box for those use cases where stakeholders and analysts should not even log on in the Matomo user interface. And in the EU, we have an Accessibility Act to comply to, and Matomo can actually support this effort. And in the end, there will be a summary, and I'm open to questions. And first off, I will begin by introducing myself. My name is Österberg, and I live in Sweden. I currently work at the product agency Whitespace with business development and analysis. I've been working on website development since the late 1990s and with web analytics for about 20 years. During these years, I've mostly worked as an employee in the public sector, but also as a consultant some of the time. I've written a book on web analytics, which is used as course material at several universities here in Sweden, when they are training future communicators and journalists. And speaking of communicators, that's really my world. I've been the link between communication, digital services, and technology all of my professional life. But enough about me. First up is our way of thinking about where to start an web analytics effort. In my experience, it's really common to struggle with how to get going, partly because web analytics can be difficult in itself, and partly because many people expected to make it happen are not full-time web analysts. But it doesn't have to be that complicated if you feel following this simple model, which I'm going to show now. First, though, this is a conversion funnel based on the IDA model. This is how to relate to different parts of a website and different initiatives. With web analytics, we strive to understand user experiences, and through its methods, we can gain actionable insights. A visual representation of this could be the conversion funnel, which classifies the different stages of a user or customer has to go through. The goal is sometimes to convert the person's interest into action. Not all users will move through the entire funnel, though, and in some cases, all we need is the attention. The downward arrow in the bottom of the funnel reminds us not to always settle for measuring attention or just exposure, but to seek deeper signals that confirm the user's progression towards conversion or becoming a customer. And most websites are not useful if all they get is the attention. They need to guide users how to act towards an end goal of sorts. And with web analytics, we measure and evaluate that process with the intent of improving the website to support its users. But so I promised the 3 levels of making these things easier. For those who are in an early stage in their analytics journey, we have a basic model that we typically use to help get them started. It is a simplified version of the IDA model we just looked at, and these 3 levels are also your talking points when it comes to reporting or presenting the results of your analytics. And you have to have answers to these 3 levels of questions. At the top, you've got the attention and exposure, or frankly speaking, this is the vanity metrics, but it's okay since you need to describe your website's upper funnel for context. You have to do a little more than just present a number on your upper funnel. For instance, you should know about acquisition trends, different channels, etc. Point 2 is how the website got used. At some length, you need to know where the users are spending time on the website. Where do they land? Are they experiencing any friction, such as error messages? What do they type into the website search, and do they even get any search results? In my experience, this is pretty illuminating and challenges your assumptions you have on how your website is being used. It also quite often is actionable in the sense that it's obvious when you fail your users. Point 3 is to be able to claim the website has any value. And you need to identify at least one goal and configure Matomo accordingly. Then you can follow the goal over time, learn its ups and downs, and try to optimize. And for some organizations, the goals of their websites are obvious. For instance, if they sell something, or perhaps gather information for the sales organization to act upon. And for other organizations, it might be a bit of a struggle. For example, in the public sector organization, they tend to have such abstract expectations on their website that their eyes glaze over when we start talking about the measurable goals. And also according to the limitations of measurable goals, such as a tool like Matomo. But many times you just have to sit down, have a look at the website, and figure out how to measure what a good user session looks like. Where are the call to action buttons, and where are their forms or signups? And it's worth reminding ourselves that all goals do not have to be monetary or outstandingly good. And I think these 3 levels are a suitable structure for both your elevator pitch and also a documented report. But who should influence the work with web analytics? This Venn diagram is something we often use at Whitespace to add nuance to things within analytics and user experience. I think it works perfectly for illustrating who you should consult about what to focus on and what to develop metrics for, etc. There are several perspectives on what's important to keep a close eye on. And the person who likely knows this best is the one with the expertise in the business area. People like me tend to complement this with the quantitative approach, but you also need people specialized in user experience. We all bring our different perspectives to this. And the mix of these are probably pretty close to the truth and valuable to get your analytics in line with the business interest. And I'm not saying you need dedicated specialists just to get going, but aim for this kind of diversity. And to bootstrap this, you could exchange the UX expert with someone who constantly talks to customers, such as those working with sales, support, or answering the phone. The analytics person is perhaps exchangeable by someone who likes statistics, but without the business expertise, this will not work out, because you cannot outsource your web analytics. But in practice, how do you automate the reporting of insights? Building upon the previous section on business-focused web analytics, I will praise the possibilities actually of Matomo's API to automate custom reporting. And we can also tailor it for different audiences. Not all stakeholders have any business being in the Matomo user interface, and perhaps most of them will just get frustrated and generate unnecessary support. And instead, we can focus on the need of continuous updates for those people. So where are people supposed to receive the reports and be aware of potential insights? My thinking is that nobody should have to switch context on a regular basis just to be able to learn what the information is stored in Matomo. They should be able to find things out in their ordinary tools or systems. And this might require different formats depending on the use case. People working with website content in the CMS can benefit from, in that context, for instance, knowing which content gathers a lot of attention, but also the extent of 404 page not found messages, the current conversion trend, and if there are any deviation from the trend, such as the Matomo widget, dashboard widget, movers and shakers is showing, but in their content management system instead. Some users I have been working with would prefer working in the favorite spreadsheet application, such as Excel, and others like to get the data to process programmatically, and some just want Matomo as their invisible data source, among other, in their business intelligence workflow. Then Matomo just have to be open to access for those other systems and tools. And maybe for everyone else, email reports is the catch-all, and they should not be an active user of Matomo. And in fact, we have a couple of Matomo clients where we have automated the reporting I explained earlier, applying the 3 levels of reporting. And then they can focus on their so-called North Star metrics and compare apples to apples over time. But the process of going for this kind of automated analytics, how do one begin? The first step, I think, is to focus on what would be a good enough result, defining your minimum viable product. And yes, I intentionally wrote playground. Working in analytics, I think it is necessary to play around with the data, and with a Jupyter Notebook, it is quite easy to stitch together a rough demonstration of the process and being able to discuss the value with some business person. That is essential to define the requirements and also learn a bit more about the challenges ahead. So what could this pipeline or solution look like? This is just an example on Matomo's role and where the result may end up in different systems. Maybe, perhaps you need an API gateway not to overload your Matomo environment with requests. Also, you can have some additional layer of security or abstraction. If we look at web analytics in a more holistic manner, we might find data sources and signals that not reach Matomo at all, such as off-site conversion or surveys or product data. An example of the data processing is to apply some natural language processing, or AI, as people are often calling it these days, on the user's website search queries. For instance, to use the NLP technique stemming to find the base form of each word. And then that's the next logical step after making all search queries in lowercase, since you then can group common search intents. And if you happen to have a database of commonly used synonyms, then you could go even further. A Swedish example I tend to bring up is daycare and preschool, since parents and municipalities often use different terms to describe the exact same thing. And when you have your data sources and you have made your relations between them processed and transformed the data, then you have to distribute or at least compile it. That could be an analytics API or a service of sorts. And the result can end up in diverse content systems where marketing happens. It could be a weekly email report or a data pipeline towards your business intelligence platform or a dashboard system. Well, it's time to switch topic a bit and talk about another type of compliance than the GDPR and the like. And in the European Union, we have more regulations than the GDPR, and I know this type of regulation also applies in the United States. The European Accessibility Act, it's called here, and for instance, it requires of banks to offer accessible digital products towards their customers. And the consumers might not have eyesight or any other range of disabilities, including struggling with reading or having impaired motor skills. And I will introduce why I think Matomo is a good fit for parts of that effort. First off, let's talk about those different perspectives I brought up in the Venn diagram previously, because we need to know where to focus our efforts, and then we have a business perspective, but also user experience and a more Matomo-like perspective. UX and design professionals often have some kind of design systems today. That is the ideal version of how things are supposed to work and look. From these professionals, it's interesting to get the designated test pages and also the complete path towards a conversion. Myself, though, then being primarily a web analytics and Matomo guy, I obviously think about which table in Matomo is most relevant to extract from the Matomo API. I think the most visited pages and landing pages is what I would like to complement with. And what the business people bring in here are ideas I've come up with from working closely with communication professionals over many years. Typical questions involve keeping track of newly published pages and content to ensure that the quality is good enough, and also the recently edited pages. And that is to being able to measure that quality isn't declining after a relaunch or a training initiative, and that edits have paid off. And that type of data is present in almost any website's sitemap in a structured manner. And when the compliance team has this information, they need a toolbox, obviously. And all of these are open source. Of course, Matomo Analytics is great for this. The test engine to automatically check website accessibility is Axcore, which is available in a lot of products, but also in a node package. Axe will find things like missing alternative text or when headers are not in a logical order on a web page. And if you would like to know if the information itself is reasonably simple to understand for readers, you can use FlashKincade for English texts, and for other languages there are other types of algorithms. And one might wonder how scheduling the testing works. A tool for this is Jenkins, and it can do many things. And you could absolutely be satisfied with the first 4 steps, but if you need to track progress over time and have some kind of a dashboard, you can complement with the business intelligence tool, and perhaps Streamlit and Superset are quite common in the open source world. But automated testing is not really good enough to be compliant. And for instance, there are false positives. And that is that automated tools may think they found errors, but upon closer inspection, it is actually correct. But the biggest problem, however, is that about half of what could be wrong cannot even be tested with automated methods. And this quote is from the developer of Axcore, the standard test engine. So, yeah. In other words, it's necessary to have automated accessibility testing, but it's really not enough to settle for that alone if you don't also have a process for manual testing. And the automated testing is just the foundation for making accessibility happen. And now it's time for my summary. My main message is this: just try to get going with what you have in terms of experience around you, and do not settle with the measuring page views or visitors. There has to be some sort of conversion on your website. You should aim for having a diverse analytics team or people around you. Together you can find out how analytics has a business case at all. We should not give people access to Matomo if they don't have to. We, as analysts and product owners, should do the groundwork instead for the common use cases, and then integrate and automate. And also think about other use cases, such as the quality checks, such as reviewing the accessibility. And sometimes Matomo knows what is used on your website, and that can help you focus your efforts and be compliant in more than just one way. That's it. Thanks for your time. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much, Marcus. Let's have a look within the chat to see if there are some questions coming. So, oops, let's see over here. So, well, so there is always question dealing with the logistic part. Will the slides will be available somewhere so that our attendees can download them afterwards?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Okay. Next question. So, by the way, I think that on the platform that we have, where you write when you submit the proposal, you can upload your slide over there. So feel free to do so, and I will then create a blog post on MatomoCamp.org where I will post your slides if needed. So
yeah, great.
Or even send it to me by email, and I will do the necessary. Next question is, can you expand on what a good content management system looks like that will reduce the customer support contacts? What format would it have?
Content management system is, in my experience, being primarily working with the public sector, it's kind of a archiving system of sorts. It's brochure kind of systems, and they have separate services platforms. So I'm not really sure I can answer that question, but I think that in any case, when you're procuring an information system that you need to measure or evaluate or optimize in any way, then you are interested if it has support for webhooks or all of that technology, and if it has widgets or it's customizable in any way. For instance, for WordPress, it's pretty easy to do this kind of dashboard in that kind of tool, and then you can have some sort of a table or a view or a dashboard in that system that is reusing things both from Matomo and other systems, and kind of stitch together that kind of actionable overview for a content producing person. I'm not sure I answered the question, but I'm not sure I'm able to.
Well, dealing with the person who asked the question, feel free to. Okay. So he or she says thank you. So I guess the answer has been given. But if you need once more clarification, feel free to add another question. There's no questions left, but we have some time, and I'm not sure if the audience know you very well. So if you have the chance maybe to say a couple of words about who you are as an individual, or what space is about, what kind of Matomo products and services you are delivering.
Yeah.
We do have at least 10 minutes, 5 minutes in front of us. So please feel free to maybe expand on this given part, or the type of use cases that you are dealing with on a daily basis.
Yeah. I'm kind of the autodidact, the self-taught person in analytics, and have been working, even over 20 years, and have been product owner at the local government in Western Sweden, product owner of Matomo and different kinds of products around Matomo, and having all kinds of support systems around it. So I'm kind of a generalist, and that's about enough about me. My employer, Whitespace, we mostly offer two different kind of things. We offer coach and support for Matomo users, and we also have a SaaS service with Matomo as well, with hosting in Sweden, and mainly working with the public sector, but also some kind of engage and acquire related customers that are having more obvious goals with their website and easier to track the conversion and the action in the IDA model. For instance, we have a team of about 6 people in DevOps, and more business-like, more business experienced person like me, and we kind of covered the whole scale from tech to more softer values and coaching our clients and the business people at our customers how to get started and health checking Matomo environments that a new analyst getting employed at the customer of ours is not being disappointed about the state of the Matomo. So we kind of audit the state of the implementation and which plugins are used and if the data quality is any good. So we kind of do it all, I think. And the first part of my presentation is where I usually present and talk the struggle and the difficulties to get started at all with the web analytics. It was a meme about 10 years ago that everybody talks about things because they think that everybody else is doing it, and therefore they are claiming that they also are doing it. And I kind of think that we have a really good potential to get better at the point of web analytics, and I find it a bit frustrating that we are not gaining more ground about how to use Matomo and all the product is offering in a better way, and trying to make a claim how the analytics is proving value for the business. So yeah, that's kind of my frustration, and laying out a path for those clients that I work with, how to take the next logical steps. And that's pretty much what the first part of my presentation were, that you need a structure to get presenting, and you should practice the presenting on your peers, and perhaps a measurement plan, and then you can live by your measurement plan in your analytics team before you are talking to other people and making the business case. So you just start playing and the playground I mentioned, and get going, essentially.
Okay. I'm just watching if there's one question left. So there's no questions left, but we still have a bit of time. So I'm just going to add a curiosity question. What I noticed, strangely, is like there's a lot of demand regarding the Swedish market, but strangely, not that much regarding the Icelandic, the Danish, the Norwegian market, and the Finnish market. So that's very strange to see that Sweden is way beyond any of his neighbor. But when I say way beyond, it's really way beyond the others. And I was wondering if that's the same thing that you are noticing on your side, if there are special things that we are not aware of. How is it possible that when it comes to Matomo specifically, the other Nordic countries, let's say, are not moving as fast in Sweden?
I'm not really aware about the Icelandic market, but for context, I think it's about 250,000 people living on Iceland. So it's a tiny, tiny population, and though they have a lot of municipalities, I think, so we are structured in different ways, and Sweden is the by far largest market in all of IT in the Scandinavian end of Europe. but it's often claimed about Sweden and Swedish people that we are obsessed with following the rules. At least that's what I'm hearing from my Norwegian friends. So perhaps we are taking a more strict interpretation of GDPR, and perhaps some of the early adopters, such as my previous employer, the Western Götaland region, made a case for others to just do the same thing and know that they were compliant, and that's what's led to this kind of market situation. Yeah, that's my guess, at least.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing this part, Marcus. So in the chat, we got some reactions from Thomas. Those are not questions, so the president, okay, and is adding more information about the specific question that I gave you. Any questions that you would like you to answer yourself? I mean, question that you wish the audience will have asked to you today, Marcus?
No, not really. I hope I covered all the bases. So, but thank you. Thank you all.
No problem. That was a pleasure to have you today with us, so as the previous edition.